You're listening to the main event with Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn on WHIP.
Well, we're coming to your city.
That's right. WHIP Radio here in Philadelphia. Time in the WHIP studios is 11:36, and we can't wait for this weekend as Saturday. College Game Day is coming to our city of Philadelphia, and then later that night, Temple and Notre Dame, the 9th-ranked team in the country. The Fighting Irish go up against your 21st-ranked Temple Owls under the lights at Lincoln Financial Field, nationally televised on ABC. You can also listen to the game right here on Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. And game day is going to be fun. You're going to be at Independence Mall, bright and early, 9 a.m. on Saturday. There's going to be a ton of Fathead signs and all that great stuff. You'll have Herb Street, Corso, Desmond Howard, and all those guys. But the man that hosts College Game Day, Rece Davis, is on the hotline with us right now. Rece, it's Zach Gelb and Mike Zahn here on Temple's campus. Thanks for a few minutes, and how are you?
Zach, Mike, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Well, we're doing great, and we appreciate you giving us a few minutes today. So everyone here was patiently waiting for the decision to come out on Sunday, and then we eventually heard it on Monday with that video that College Game Day's Twitter did release. You get to see everything behind the scenes. Tell me, give me a little insight on that selection process and how you prepare for College Game Day.
Well, it's really more than just to show people. We also have our administrative guys, our executives who are involved in the selection. We want to go not necessarily always where the top game is, although many times these two things coincide. But we always say that we like to go where the best story is. I thought it was a pretty competitive week in terms of storylines, whether it was Temple Notre Dame, which is the only game matching ranked opponent, or Washington State hosting Stanford. Stanford is an emerging team, a playoff contender. Washington State has been hot and controls its destiny. But I think ultimately we decided that with the Temple story and the resurgence of the American, as a friend of mine gave to me the line that I used on SportsCenter last week, it's an American revolution, with the 3 undefeated teams in the conference. Temple with an opportunity for a second signature win over a Power 5 program that, in my judgment, if that were to happen, really alters the landscape of evaluation. Now, I'm not saying that means an American team would get in the playoffs if it's undefeated. I'm not sure that the rest of the resume, strength of schedule, and so forth would hold up. But I do think it would be something that the committee would have to evaluate, because then you would have Temple with a couple of signature wins. You would have Memphis with a win over Ole Miss and being impressive, putting up big numbers, and you still have Houston, which has played a very poor schedule, but they've played against it extraordinarily well. So I think it would at least change the evaluation criteria and make the committee look at things a little bit differently than perhaps they would should Notre Dame win the game handily.
I know you're new to College Game Day on the football front, taking over for the great Chris Fowler, who actually will join us later on in the week. But you went to a big-time football school, obviously, in Alabama when you went to college. And last week it was James Madison for College Game Day. And College Game Day, it's always bound, it's inevitable to happen that you get those big-time powerhouse schools. But when you go to a James Madison or a Temple, how much more fun is that when you get to see a school that isn't always necessarily in the national spotlight?
Yeah, I think it's really gratifying to see what the show means to people in the larger picture of the landscape of college football, and to see the excitement that was evident at James Madison last week, which the crowd was huge. I mean, when I arrived on campus Friday morning, not Saturday morning, arrived on Friday morning, there were I bet there were already 1,000 kids out there. Now, they were just kind of having fun, but they were gathered around to see what would happen next. And then you guys saw the scene on Saturday morning. A remarkable turnout with perhaps more signs than they said that they had ever had in College Game Day. I think Corso said per capita most signs in the history of the show. And I think it really shows that there is passion for college football at a lot of different levels, at a lot of different corners of the country, and we are thrilled to be able to showcase that from time to time when the situation's right.
It's a special event, College Game Day, and when you walk into the site on a Saturday morning or even on a Friday, people worship the people on set, and you get that experience from basketball, but now you get to experience it with being the host for football. What is that moment like when you walk in and you have all those fans screaming and chanting for you, Corso, Herb Street, and Desmond Howard?
I look at it a little bit differently. I don't think necessarily that it's about us. I think it is more about their passion for the sport and how we have through the football show through the years, and since I moved into the host chair this year, we try to celebrate the sport. That doesn't mean we don't criticize it at times or critique the people involved in it. That's part of your job. But I don't look at it as being, walking out there like Bono or Springsteen, where they're there just for us. I think this show has been built by keeping the good of the sport first, and by celebrating the sport first before it has to do with us. So I kind of look at it differently, but it is an adrenaline rush to go out there and see that people are excited about the day of college football, particularly about their team. They're excited about having a role in the show, which a crowd that shows up for a show like that most certainly does. And we've tried to do the best that we could this year to touch those moments in the crowd. Whether it was guys mud diving spontaneously at Clemson, initially spontaneously. Then we had to move some of them out of the way and get a camera over there. But, that's what happens. Our people spot stuff going on in the crowd, and we say, hey, you won't believe what this guy's doing. And, obviously we want to be, safe and all of that kind of stuff. But we try to capture those moments because it is part of the pageantry of the sport. It might not be part of the game per se, but it is certainly part of the pageantry and the celebration that comes along every Saturday. And we, the way I look at it, we only get 14 of these this year, and we need to celebrate them and have as much fun with each and every Saturday as we possibly can.
We're talking to ESPN College GameDay host Rece Davis. And Rece, I'm not dumb. I understand you can't tell us right now who's going to be the special guest host on the show, but can you give us at least a little hint if it might be an alum or a famous actor from Philadelphia, just something?
You know what? We're still working on it, and that's one of the things. I tell you this: if we had it all settled and ready to release, I would tell you, because we like, we've talked about this. Whether what gets you more bang for the buck is the surprise on air or building up to have people wanting to see the person. And I think we've sort of settled in most cases, and every situation is probably unique, but in most cases I think we've settled on just telling them. There are a couple of times we've done the surprise thing. We had a little fun with, who's in the plane at Utah when we brought John Stockton in to, make the picks, which was wildly popular in Salt Lake City, obviously. But more times than not, once it's settled, we like to get it out there because, we believe that we're going to have a great crowd for the show no matter what. But if there are a few other people, a few extra people who might be sitting there going, oh, that's a long time before the game, am I coming out? And all of a sudden we say, hey, we've got Taylor Swift, which we don't have, but we would like to have her sometime.
Who wouldn't?
Have her or Ronda Rousey or something like that, we would love to have them be guest pickers. And, if we have something like that, we put it out there and try to get a few more people to come out to see that person.
Well, someone we know who will definitely be there Saturday will be Will Fuller, one of the top wide receivers for Notre Dame. Actually, a Philadelphia product, went to Roman Catholic. What do the Owls need to do if they want to stop one of the best wideouts in the nation, Will Fuller?
Well, I tell you, it's a really difficult task because Will is explosive and slippery and has made numerous big-time plays for Notre Dame this year. I know he's got the tattoo of the Liberty Bell, and I know it's going to be a really special occasion for him to come back to his home city and try to perform at a very high level. But, Temple has played extraordinarily well on defense. Obviously, I think that, they'll do what they do. I don't believe in really doing a lot of special things, especially when you've had as much success defensively as the Owls have. Be acutely aware of where Fuller is and the route that Kaiser is comfortable throwing to him and that type of thing. And with a number of big plays that Will is capable of making, I would say that the old mantra, deep is the deepest, wide is the widest, would probably serve them pretty well on Saturday against him.
Well, on the opposite side, Notre Dame is the 50th ranked defense in the nation for yards allowed per game. What do they have to do if they want to stop the top weapon for the Temple Owls in Jahad Thomas?
Well, Notre Dame has really extraordinary linebackers. I think they have one of the smartest linebackers in college football, and Joe Schmidt, who's a former two-star walk-on who has emerged a team captain, and then they have Jalen Smith, who is a quintessential five-star superior athlete, also really savvy, intelligent player, and combines that with great explosiveness. So I think Notre Dame's defense, while it certainly has endured some injuries up front. More of their injuries have been on offense, but they've had a couple on defense as well. I think Notre Dame is pretty well suited on defense to slow down a running attack. So I think that certainly while Temple's going to want to control tempo and make their drives productive and try to keep Notre Dame's explosive offense off the field as much as they can. I think that I'm a big believer in Notre Dame. I think that they are more athletic. I think they have more speed, in not just in skill positions, but in linebacker and safety and places like that than they've had in some of the years under Brian Kelly. So I think this is a really good team. I think it's going to be a pretty monumental challenge for Temple on Saturday night to beat them.
You get to cover more of the national scene, so give us some national perspective. This Temple defense, this is the second year in a row that Phil Snow has done an extraordinary job with this team. They force a lot of turnovers. They get a bunch of interceptions. They're the 9th total defense in the country. What do people say about Tyler Metakevich, Matt Ioannidis, and this Temple defense nationally?
I think there's a tremendous amount of respect for them, and it probably started not only with the season last year that was 500 when their defense played well, but I think it really got people's attention. No matter how much Penn State struggles, when you sack, the Penn State quarterback 50 gajillion times or whatever it was that day that they got to Hackenberg, I think it gets a lot of people's attention. And when they've been able to follow that up with clutch stops as they had, last week to allow them to come from behind to beat East Carolina, I think there's a tremendous amount of respect for what Matt Rule has done at Temple and how they can stack up against the quote unquote big boys of the Power Five. As I mentioned earlier, they've already beaten one of them. And the thing about having a team like Temple that might not have the most dynamic, explosive Baylor type offense is that when you have an experienced defense as they do, if my memory serves, didn't they have all 11 starters back, and then maybe they didn't have one early, but they've got every position played last year. So they've got not only skilled guys, but they've got experienced guys that understand what it takes to be successful at this level. And I think that at a program like Temple, when you start building that type of experience, and when you have a defense that is salty and keeps you in games and keeps games being lower scoring, it gives your offense a little more margin for error than perhaps a team that is built solely around trying to outscore somebody. And it's the thing that no matter how much the game changes, and it has changed a lot, and success on defense is defined differently these days. I don't think it's defined as much by total yards allowed, but rather by yards per play allowed, because teams run so many more plays now, and you're going to give up some points from time to time. But even with all of that, defense still travels. Defense does not win championships, but it certainly keeps you from losing them, and that's a really good place to start. So I think that if you are built the way Temple is, that you have a shot against a whole lot of teams, most everybody that you'll stand in against, if you can continue to have the type of success that they've had defensively.
You're right. They did return their starters from last year, and they've also have added some younger guys that were redshirted last year, like a Michael Dogby and a Freddie Booth-Lloyd. You also have a Sean Chandler getting another year under his belt. So that's a big reason why this Temple defense, and I didn't think they could improve from last year. I thought they'd be the same thing, but they did take an extra step this year. As we're talking to Rece Davis, the host of College GameDay on ESPN, as it will be here on Saturday in Philadelphia at Independence Mall. And a big task for that defense is going up against this offense of Notre Dame. They're an offensive juggernaut, and especially in that first quarter of games, they're outscoring opponents by a score of 78-37, Rece. This Temple team has only scored 30 first quarter points all year. It's a big game. There's going to be a lot of emotions, but this Temple team did play Notre Dame 2 years ago. So how do they get off to a better start than what they have been this year, especially going up against a powerhouse in Notre Dame?
I think it's really important when you're on this type of stage for the first time, and this really is the first time Temple has been on this type of stage with our show coming to town, ABC primetime, all of those types of things. I think controlling the emotion and channeling the adrenaline in a proper way so that it doesn't cause you to make sloppy mistakes early on, give Notre Dame a short field, something like that. And then channel that energy on defense to get a stop, to force a 3 and out, give your offense good field position. and not just don't let your adrenaline overcome you to the point that you turn around and you're down 14-0 before you really know the game started. I think if Temple can do that, if they can manage their emotions in the early part of the game, be sound, channel the adrenaline in the right way, then it won't take very long for them to settle into the game, and they'll just be out there competing like another game. Once that wave of emotion sort of settles in the early moments of the game.
I'm not going to ask for a score prediction. It is Wednesday, and we still have a couple more days. But what kind of game are you expecting between these two ranked opponents?
I'll put it this way. I think that if Temple is to have a chance in this game, it has to be a low possession, lower scoring game. If you get into a game that where people are scoring in the 30s, then I think that greatly favors Notre Dame. So I think that the type of game Temple needs to keep it competitive is one in which they force and stop, get the tempo that they want, keep it a lower possession type of game. It almost sounds like a basketball analogy in some ways, but keep it close and keep it tight. And then as the game wears on, we've seen this many times over the years, the team that is the perceived underdog starts gaining some confidence and momentum and realizing we can play with these guys. The favored team, Notre Dame, with no more margin for error in terms of the college football playoff and no conference championship to pursue, start feeling the heat a little bit. So I think that is the type of game Temple needs if they're going to have the chance to pull the upset on Saturday night.
Rece, I'm just going to let you know, maybe you could tell Lee Corso, pass along this message for him. The first thing Temple University Athletic Director Patrick Kraft did when he found out game day was coming was he made sure that there was a Hooter the Owlhead for Lee Corso. So just make sure that Lee knows that he will have one already there for him, and it's not that hard to just kick away the Fighting Irishman, the leprechaun, and just put on that Stella the Owlhead.
Wouldn't that be something? I mean, we keep extensive notes, and I'll have them ready on Saturday morning on what number mascot head, how many different mascot heads Lee's put on over the years. I know he hasn't put on the Temple Owl head yet. We'll see on Saturday morning if he's willing to pull the upset, because last week he had one of the great reveals I think in game day history when he was James Madison and had on the powdered wig and read to the crowd and so forth. That was a great moment. It didn't work out for him, unfortunately. Richmond won the game, but he'll have some showmanship and entertainment value ready for the people on Saturday morning.
Well, you know how tough Philadelphia could be if he doesn't take the Owls. It could be a rough trip home for Lee Corso.
Coach is pretty tough. I think he can take just about anything these days.
Rece Davis, excellent job. We'll see you Saturday. Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.